Greetings, everyone. This is Kumaran Subramaniyan. I'm doing my final year Masters of Social Work from the Social Work AD stream in Madras Christian College, East Tamil, Chennai. And I'm happy to present my topic of National Tribal Policy as a part of second year assignment from the paper Tribal Development. So, just get into the topic. So, the introduction slide says it's National Policy on Tribals. So, and this picture has been taken by one of the co-training, Mr. Stanley Verghese. So, and this scenario has been like we are providing bonded Labor Day awareness at Kolamedu. So, next, I glimpse to the topic. So, national policy on tribals or tribal policy has been like what the first time after the country becoming independent in 1950, January 26th. For the first time, they just jot down this topic, and it's nothing but it's a formulation of a national policy and scheduled tribes. So they consider that scheduled caste and scheduled tribes as one of the minorities. On to that, comparatively, scheduled tribes are below to the below to the respective category. So the main thing is to just brought the stereotypes into the mainstream of society to multi-pronged approach for the all-round development. So the thing is that if you want development, it cannot be achieved by a single person, a single community. So when we are sharing ideas and mingling with others, so after that one we can be able to get the development, and that too without disturbing their distinct culture. So change should be made, but it should not be disturb their own culture. So it's highly like what mainly they concentrate on that. And there are 68.8 million scheduled tribe people exist. That is 8.08 percentage of total India's population, and there were 698 scheduled tribes that exist in across all the states and union territories of India, specifically to Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Pondicherry, and Punjab, and Orissa has the largest number of scheduled tribes. There were 68 types of scheduled tribes were there exist there. It has been notified in that Article 342 of the Indian Constitution by President of India. The first notification was issued in 1950, as I say that after independence. So it has been issued that, and 75 of the 698 scheduled tribes are identified as primitive tribal groups. So they were like what one of the person existed very long back. So primitive tribal groups, and they're comparatively more backward than scheduled tribes. So in that scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are the most backward. On the scheduled tribes also, primitive tribal groups are the most vulnerable and most backward people, and they continue to live in a pre-agricultural stage of economy, and they're having very low literacy rates, and they kind of the populations are stagnant, won't be no improvement or no development. No, they will even be declining. So only reduce. Either they will be stagnant or will be reduced. If you want to identify who are the scheduled tribes, so normally the below characters has been mentioned by Article 342. They were primitive tribes and they have distinctive culture, and they are very shyness with the public at large number. When the public has been large number, they will be very shyness and geographical isolation. They will specifically stick on to one type of geographical location, and they are isolated from the community, from the town or from the village people, and social economic backwardness. Apart from this, from my own experience, in especially in Tamil Nadu. So if you want to identify uh, tribal, they will be live in kacha houses being built by palm trees. And if you want to identify where they're located, you can simply ask them where are the like what forest dwellers. In Tamil, it's Katukaranga. In 1952, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru come up with an idea of Panchashil. So it's called named after him, Nehru in Panchashil. So what are the five principles has been elucidated by the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru? They should be allowed to develop according to their own genius. So according to own knowledge, there should be no restrictions, no like what resistance on developing. The next one is they do have the right in land and in forest. It should be respected. And they should be, third one is they should be trained to undertake administration and development without too many outsiders being inducted. So administration and development should be being taught, being like what implicated, being instrumented within the own tribal people when they are doing particularly any administrations or any changes developing the brought in. And next, without disturbing tribal social and cultural institution. So development should be there, but there should be it should not be affect their social and cultural institutions. And they should have the quality of life. It's not about the amount of money what they are spending. And next one is there were some drawbacks of Nehru and Panch in 1952. Nehru and Panchashwar was long on generalities. It's like generally, it's focused on general, not on specific. So outcome of that drawback, Government of India formed a Ministry of Tribal Affairs for the first time in October 1999 to accelerate the tribal development. So they come up with a draft called National Policy on Tribals. So based on the feedback from tribal leaders, the concerned states, individuals, organizations in the public and private sectors, and NGOs, the ministry will finalize the policy. The findings of national policy are most of them from a below poverty line, and they do have poor literacy rates. According to 1991 census, they're saying that 29.60 of them only being literature, and they also do suffer from malnutrition and disease, and they are most vulnerable to displacement, especially so repositories indigenous knowledge and wisdom in certain aspects. In the national tribal policy, they're focusing on around nine categories of development. So they're providing formal education, traditional ecological knowledge, health, displacement and resettlement, forest villages, shifting cultivation, land alienation, intellectual property rights, and tribal languages. So we are going to see one by one according to what are the areas being focused by national tribal policies. The formal education. So comparatively, according to 1991 census, 29.60% of them only being educated of the total population, where the total population of country education literacy rate is 52.221, and female literacy rate is only 18.19 percentage. So comparatively, it's being what a bit according to the female literacy of whole country 39.29 percentage. The reason for poor literacy rate, the alienation from the society, yeah, because they are isolated, like what marginalized, being marginalized, and lack of adequate infrastructure like schools, hostels, and teachers. And they also one of the reason is poverty and irrelevant curriculum. That is a reason for literacy rate. And to achieve the following on like formal education, tribals are included in the national program of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan by the Minister of Human Resource and Development, and schools are also open in areas where no such facility exists. At least one model residential school is located in each tribal concentration area, and education linked with provision of supplementary nutrition, special initiatives like financial assistance, pocket allowance, free distribution of textbooks, and school uniforms are provided. And like what tribals mother tongue has been a primary language, first language for the tribals, for like what educated tribal youth are given employment as teachers wherever possible, and pedagogy is made relevant so they will not find as an alien. And curriculum and core curriculum include aspects of meta skill upgradation of tribal children. Curricula for meta skill upgradation are to include the aspect of tribal games and sports, archery, identification of plants of medicine value, crafts and culture, folk dance and folk songs, folk painting, etc. And emphasis on later vocational and professional education. So polytechnics are set up a studies in subjects like forestry, horticulture, dairying, veterinary sciences, polytechnics. The next one is traditional wisdom. So dwelling amidst hills, forests, coastal areas, deserts, tribals are the centuries have been gained precious and vast experience in combating natural environment hardship and leading sustainable livelihood. So since most of the tribal people live among live in the hills, forests, they come across how to sustain the livelihood, and also like what fight against it. So their wisdom is reflected on their experience, like the water harvesting techniques has been identified in a different manner, and develop irrigation channels, construction of cane bridges and hills, adaptation to desert life, utilization of forest species like herbs, shrubs for medicinal purposes, and meteorological assessment, etc. So such invaluable knowledge of this needs to be properly documented, because these were never documented and these were not in any book. From their own experience, practice, and error method, they come across with one idea how to construct bridges, how to develop irrigations, how to store water through water harvesting. So these things to be properly documented, preserving the knowledge. The national policy seeks to preserve and promote such traditional knowledge and train tribal youth in areas of established wisdom and models and exhibits at appropriate places and transfer such knowledge to non-tribal areas. So health, what are the health crises? They come across malnutrition, lack of safe drinking water, poor hygiene, environmental sanitation, poverty, lack of awareness, and endemics like malaria, differentiation disease, venereal disease, including AIDS, are not uncommon among tribal population. They are very common. The deficiency of calcium, vitamin A, vitamin C, riboflavin, and women of the like being poor nutrition status, the infants being what reproductive performance are reduced. Reason for the reasons, they are in own system of diagnosis and cure of diseases. They believe in taboos, spiritual powers, and faith healing. So they mostly not prefer to go for English medicines. So like man-made medicine. So like they will mostly use their forest herbs and everything. So national policy seeks to strengthen allopathy system of medicine and three-tier system like what village workers, auxiliary nurse, midwife, and primary health centers, and expand the number of hospitals in tune with tribal numbers and tradition like what document and encourage and having that record the patents for the traditional medicines and promote cultivation of medicinal plants related to value addition strategies through imparting training to youth. And also they encourage qualified doctors from tribal communities and regular training and orientation courses for a strong force of tribal village health guides and utilization of health services provided by the provided and available and disease affecting tribals. So strengthen research into disease affecting tribals for finding a permanent solution and displays for resettlement are one of the causes. So acquisition of land for construction of dams and roads, quarrying and mining operation, location of industry, reservation of forests for national parks and environmental reasons. So due to this, suddenly one of them, a tribal village will be displaced, they will be resettled. So like either for a government project or for a private project, or the owner has been letting the tribal people to stay for some period of time, and after he changed his mind, having one construction there. So these were the reasons for displacement resettlement. Nearly 85.39 lakh tribals has been displaced until 1990. So it's very old data, but just imagine from that year itself, it's 85.39 lakhs and all. And imagine now. So according to fifth schedule of the constitution, tribal displacement from the land amounts to violation. It's a kind of one of the violation. They do have control and ownership of natural resources and land essential to their own way of life. So the national policy come up with an idea of like land against, like if they are being displaced, there should be another land will be given to them, a minimum of 2 hectares of cultivable land, and they will granted fishing rights in the new reserve if the tribal land were having the original habitat of fishings, so they will need to grant writing for fishings and reservation benefits. So if they enjoying reservation benefits on the previous area, it should be continued in the resettled area also. And additional financial resistance. So loss of customer rights, factory rights, forest produce shall be given and resettled closer to the national habitat. They should not be displaced and taken over and put them across near Pakistan or like across 500 kilometers. They should be replaced among own areas. Like it could be, I'm just simply guessing that it will be around 5 to 10 kilometers. And free land is to be provided and patta also to be mentioned. So substantively higher benefits in monetary terms. Now all basic minimum amenities shall be provided at the new size. So cross checking either they enjoying all the basic amenities which has been well, like need to be provided, and forest villages. So manage educational and medicinal facilities, electricity and communication approach, roads, and such other basic will be provided to forest villages. And public distribution system and grain banks to establish and prevent food problem. So tribal peoples also to be necessary to provide the public distribution system and another grain banks to like what combat against the drought seasons, and advanced agriculture and animal husbandry technology should be introduced, and bank and other institutional loans should be available for entrepreneurs in scheduled tribes for income generation. And tribals be given to opportunity to partake in joint forest management. So they also should be provided with an opportunity to develop their contribute their part to develop forest management, and tribals again protection, regeneration, and collection of minor forest produce. We recognize institutionalized arrangement made for marking certification, and efforts need to be eliminate exploitation by middlemen in cooperatives. So shifting cultivation. So I say that no, if the people are being resulted into across more than 500 kilometers, they might have struggle. They're like there will be a collapse in their uh, culture and their social economic structure. So do not use any mechanics to tools in shifting cultivation. Previously, they never use any mechanics to tools, or even for plugging also they not used any mechanism at all. So they usually use a stick and a sickle are the usual tools. And crops do not meet their food requirement for more than 4 months or so in if they are shifted with the cultivation because of poor use. Turn the problem. So land tenure system will be rationalized during tribals to land ownership, and agriculture scientists will be asked to focus on shifting cultivation and do research on that, and ensure sufficient food supply to the public distribution system and grain banks. And training and extension program will be organized to sensitize tribals about alternative economic strategies. And land alienation. Another thing is land alienation. Scheduled tribes are being simple folk are often expected to forego their foremost important resource, land, to non-tribals. So land is one of the identity of our scheduled tribe. If they are being shifted to another areas, they will be become non-tribals. Their identity has been like what faded. So on protecting that, productive laws has been check the trend. Disposed tribals are yet to back the lands. And states promote development projects like hydroelectric power station and mining industries are most of the reason for land alienation. These development activities do not confer any benefit on tribal directly, render them landless. For tackling this, tribals have access to village land records. There should be land records be displayed at the panchayat. Oral evidence, if they are providing oral evidence means then it's absence of records. So they having the right to take action against it. And state prohibits transfer of lands from tribal to non-tribals. They don't have any access to that. Tribals and the representative be associated with the land surveys. Forest tribe will be assigned pattas for land under the village since ages. States launching development projects like take adequate care to keep tribal lands intact and not possible. Order land even before a project take up. If they are government are definitely going to execute implementing project in advance, they need to provide land. Intellectual property rights. Scheduled tribes are known for the knowledge and wisdom of ethnic origin. There is, however, no legal and a non-institutional framework to safeguard their intellectual property rights. The national policy, therefore, will aim at making legal and institutional arrangement to protect intellectual property rights and curtailing the rights of corporate and other agency access and exploit the resources. So the tribal languages, each and everyone is unique and different. So the tribals having their own tribal languages, they are considered as one of the unscheduled languages. So in the wake of changing education scenario, many of the tribal languages are facing the threat of extinction. Their own language has been not taught in their school, which has been resided in their own boundary. Then these things are only made to tribal people to not continue the education. If the tribal language is being treated as a primary language in every school, the tribal is being taught, more people will go for education. So tribal languages being treated, they documenting tribal languages and they also just they are documenting the mother tongue, and many books and other publications are being promoted in tribal languages. Conclusion, I'm coming to conclusion. So national tribal policy focusing areas and plannings were out of the world. It's out of the world. It covers all over the tribal people who existed. The saddest thing is that all of them are printed, kept safely, but none of them are executed and implemented. If those were implemented, take my word, the livelihood and real justice could be provided to every tribal peoples of India. Actually, so the main plan of national tribal policy is to brought the mainstream. They clearly constructed each and everything, but I think they forgot to uh, do one thing: execute. Instead of executing their tribal national tribal policy, they're executing their tribals itself, tribe itself. They simply resell to some other places in my own fieldwork area. So according to the land rights, accessing to the forest areas, and they do like what rights to dwell in lands. And most of them in outside edge of the village. It's very hard for them. Their place is not being in Google Map itself. It's very familiar one. So those national travel policies should be implemented, and that's what I wish. So if you have do any questions, please post in the comment box, and the materials will be shared if it will be wanted. So the reference are collected from National Tribal Policy Bill, and thank you for the patiently listening to my presentation. Have a nice day. Thank you.